Ladies, gentlemen, Star Wars fans out there, let's talk about that finale to Ahsoka. Because, to be honest, we're going to recap the events of the episode as we usually do, but I really want to get to the ending scenes with what this means going forward, what Filoni has planned, what is Baylan, or what is calling out to Baylan, especially with the Mortis Gods frickin' statues kind of carved into the cliff right at the end there, and also, of course, Morai appearing at the end, and what that could signify, and what all of this signifies. There's actually a lot that Filoni has planned, steering us into the mystical sides of the Force, I guess you could say, on top of the threat of Thrawn returning to the main galaxy far, far away. So if you go on to enjoy this video, guys, please leave a like. It really does help me out. Leave me your own theories down in the comments below, especially with what the ending meant in the scenes that you're probably seeing on screen right now. But at the very beginning of this episode, if we start right from the top, we had Morgan Elsbeth get a little bit of a ranking up. I suppose what we saw here is her become a little bit more of a Night Sister, or does she kind of rank up to near to that of one of the Great Mothers, but not really a Great Mother? This is why we saw her eyes go black. She got the markings, and also something that was really cool is that the Great Mothers summoned the blade of Talzin. Now, this is actually a blade that we've seen before in the Clone Wars, and it was used by Mother Talzin, and it's essentially a blade that can withstand clashing against a lightsaber, and Talzin used it against Mace Windu, and yeah, I guess, I don't know how it would have ended up here, so I suppose they somewhat used Night Sister magic to literally teleport Talzin's blade across galaxies to this one. Also, there was a really cool shot in this opening sequence when both those TIE fighters just took off right behind Thrawn. That was great. Then, when we go to Ezra, he's building his lightsaber, and in this moment as well, Huyang provided the final piece for Ezra's lightsaber. He only had 2 of these pieces. I believe it was the lightsaber emitter, and one of them went to Kanan, and he kept another one spare just in case Kanan ever needed it again. So it's really cool seeing Ezra Bridger build, I believe, is it his 3rd lightsaber, with that of a little kind of tribute to Kanan to carry with him. Also, just in general, I'm super happy that he got this lightsaber, because for a second there, I was wondering, would he kind of pledge himself to mainly just force pushing everyone constantly? Now, as much as I enjoyed this finale, because there's going to be a lot of things that I'm going to get into and fanboy over, I feel like there's a lot of things that were still somewhat skipped over that I probably won't mention right now. I'll mention them as they come up. But in this moment, one thing I realized as I'm getting to my notes, my bullet points here, is that we had Ezra wondering what happened between Ahsoka and Sabine, and we got a nice bit of context offered from Huyang, because we can't forget how he's missed out on a lot, having been stuck here with Thrawn. And he learns that Sabine's family died because of what happened on Mandalore, and where hundreds of thousands were lost. And so Ahsoka felt as though Sabine was learning to become a Jedi for the wrong reasons, and that she could actually maybe end up dangerous. So how does this really connect to what I was starting to say a second ago? Well, this kind of reminds me that we never really, in this whole episode, because of the pacing and what they needed to do, because Thrawn was, attaching himself to the Eye of Sion with his ship, the Chimera, like all of this was going very fast-paced, and as much as I enjoyed that, we never really got down to the conversation of Ezra being like, so, okay, I'm glad you came here, but you came here at the expense of sending Grand Admiral Thrawn back to the main galaxy far, far away. And the whole reason I exiled myself for all of these years with Thrawn is so he wouldn't be in the main galaxy. I think a lot of us were waiting for that information dump to happen, and I think we all know that Ezra would have still been understanding to an extent. We did get a little bit of a moment after this where Ahsoka and Sabine catch up. Sabine even apologizes, and Ahsoka even admits that they might not have ever seen Ezra again if she had chosen differently. And over the years, she's made a share of difficult choices, and at the time, no one understood her except her master. So she's kind of saying, like, I didn't want you to do this, but maybe it's working out for the best, especially at the end of the episode where Ahsoka says we're where we're meant to be. And trust me, I want to get into all of that theory time with what could be going on there and the Mortis stuff and all of that. But without going on a tangent for too much longer, the episodes prior to this had Ezra and Sabine, or Sabine was kind of pushing off going to that conversation, and Ezra's like, fine, we could talk about it another time. And then we never really did talk about it, if you know what I mean. So I just would have liked to have seen that conversation. So up next, we have Thrawn send some TIE fighters after their ship. Now, the ship gets a bit busted. We have Ezra and Ahsoka jump off and use the Force to try and stop it from crushing the turtle hobbits. And this is where the ship's pretty much screwed up until when it conveniently isn't. And this is kind of what I mean with a little bit of the writing. I know a lot of people sometimes don't care about stuff like that, but yeah, we'll get to that when we get to that. Fast pacing right up until the very end is really cool, but I do feel like it sacrifices some other things that I would have liked to have got lean into. So in this moment, we had Ezra inform Ahsoka that Thrawn found this place, woke up the witches, rebuilt his starship. Now for me, I would have just liked to have leaned into a little bit more of Ezra's and Thrawn's past in this series in general. Not necessarily this episode, because I get what this episode needed to do, but how did he find the witches, the Great Mothers? Did they come to a somewhat negotiation of their own? Maybe this, to be fair, will be explored in a future season or something like that, because after all, if Thrawn woke up the witches, well, I wonder what all of that cargo that is being put on board the Chimera is, that look eerily like caskets. And I wonder if, after what happened to Dathomir in Star Wars canon, if all of these little things can also be woken up. So maybe that's what the Night Sisters, or the Great Mothers, if you will, agreed to. So up next, we have Thrawn noticing them approaching. So he's like, rain hellfire down upon them. One thing I did appreciate as well is the little subtleties in Lars Mikkelsen's acting here. Thrawn isn't so really emotional. He is very calm, calculating, strategic, as we know. But there were little hints of frustration coming out every now and again that I did appreciate. And I know they're, for the most part, Jedi. I say for the most part, Sabine. We'll get to that. But that hellfire, that really was raining hellfire. You literally had multiple guns coming down on them. And look, this is where I really need to kind of try and suspend my disbelief, because I can look back at the original trilogy. There are very kind of whimsical Force moments, like moments that happen. But this was kind of insane. And I'm wondering, where is my, stretch limit? When do things get reaching? And I think when you have that many lasers bombarding down, especially like you assume they would have targeting systems, that's where I was like, damn. But okay, even if I try and let that go, we had Ahsoka in this moment telling Ezra to concentrate on the gate, like use the Force to open it while they're charging towards it, right? But then what I found funny is that she said for Sabine to help out, and Sabine has been completely, utterly useless this whole time in the series when it came to Force ability. Now, yes, she's got some training with lightsabers, the Darksaber in the past, but every single time they showed it, she was like this. And it wouldn't even so much as go like this. So I feel like it was a bit rushed, this episode, with Sabine's Force ability. What I said in this series so far is that I hope it doesn't become a Multiverse of Madness ending thing, where you had America Chavez being told by Doctor Strange, like, just believe in yourself, do it. Here with Sabine, I have to admit, again, you may call it nitpicky. For me, I would have preferred a little bit more development there. Like, maybe they did show her wobbling something. But here, no, she's just been useless this whole time with Force ability. Right when she needs to do it, she can help out, and I don't know. It's just, that is, I think, the definition of convenient. But to be honest, this isn't the main irk for me, because I can still put this mostly down to Ezra opening that gate. Now, this is where we got some really cool bits that a lot of people were looking forward to, from what I guess was rumored out there. Everyone had their lightsabers equipped. They were defending from the blaster fire. We see Ezra and Ahsoka go especially ham. It was quite funny how Ahsoka was like, yeah, Sabine, blasters, because she wasn't really doing a great job at deflecting the blaster fire, so she just got her blasters out and started firing away. And in this moment, I was wondering, like, okay, so what protection did the Night Mothers give the troopers? And it was, as what everyone theorized, that they would become zombie troopers. They were just tanking hits now, just like what you'd expect a zombie to do. Still approaching, but I have to admit, in this moment, I kind of was thinking to myself, they're acting like really slow as per what traditional zombies do, so they could have just run away, but they were just slowly backing off as the zombies were coming towards them. And I was like, Sabine, Ahsoka, Ezra, just make your way to the Chimera. Why are you indulging in the slow zombie movement? So this is where Thrawn is like, well, crap. And he says to Morgan Elsbeth that the Jedi are advancing swiftly and they may get on board the ship, which would be problematic. We require more time. So he's basically saying sacrifice yourself. So not to be mega critical here, but her whole job was that they needed more time, right? And that was what Thrawn instructed her to do, to not really let the Jedi get on the ship. And that's when we have Ezra, Sabine, and Ahsoka run into Morgan Elsbeth, and we have Ahsoka being like, I'll handle this. And she like gives Sabine and Ezra the evils, like little evil stares, and she lets them run past her to proceed to get onto the ship. So it's just like, Morgan, I mean, I'm not saying you're going to take all three of them on, not at all. But your whole purpose was, yes, you accepted that you're probably going to die. You just need to buy more time. Why are you letting two, especially one of them being a very capable Jedi who brought Thrawn here in the first place, to slip past you? Make it make sense. But she was just kind of like, nah, screw you, Ahsoka. I want my 1v1 rematch. Now, one thing I do want to say about this fight, other than rip to Ahsoka's lightsaber, is that this was, once again, a really cool lightsaber fight in this series. I think it doesn't necessarily top Baylan's fight scene for me, but what I did appreciate about this, even though I really appreciated the slow and deliberate movements of those fights in the very kind of martial artsy form that we had, and the form changes of previous lightsaber fights in Ahsoka, is that here, this fight was like so fast and so swift. It was like a chef having two knives carving each other up, like that kind of swiftness to it. As the fight unfolded between them, we had the zombie troopers arrive and start to fire occasionally, but then when it came down to it, when Ahsoka basically killed Morgan Elsbeth, but right up until that moment, I was thinking, and sometimes there was a moment where there was a clear shot. I was thinking, why are you troopers just standing there? You could take out Ahsoka here, but you're just letting them have a little fight. Maybe behind the scenes, in the scene we didn't see, Morgan Elsbeth was just like, no, she's mine. But yeah, these are the nitpicks that I'm kind of on about. And here's that moment where I was kind of referencing earlier, where the Chimera is taking off, and my god, that jump, yes. Not even like a Qui-Gon Jinn Jedi in the Clone Wars in their prime could really make that jump, unless maybe video game style or animated style, perhaps. But Ezra says that he can't make the jump. Sabine says, yes, you can. I push you and you pull me across. And I'm sorry. As I said, I try and add in the factor that Sabine really wants to send Ezra home. I mean, obviously she wants them all to get home. But this whole moment when she force pushes Ezra that distance, it is just way too convenient for me and too much of a plot contrivance to get Ezra home, when they've shown, as I said earlier, not to repeat myself too much here, that she has not even been able to, again, like, why isn't it moving? Why isn't it even going like this? Oh, God. But now I can... You know, I know people will be of two minds about this, saying, well, you know, she loves Ezra and she does, you know, everyone's connected to the Force, and it just so happened right when the series needed her to that she could do it. But I'm sorry, for me, that is, I think, the definition of a plot contrivance in writing. Even if the character has that inbuilt ability as a potential in the future, because she is a Jedi in training, to be able to pull it off in the moment, again, when you look at the writing of something, that is convenient. That is kind of, you know, I wish there was a little bit more build up to something like that. Or maybe they got onto the ship in a more believable way that still showed that Sabine did something kind of cool and deserving of that moment, rather than just being like, hero force pushes right when she needs to. Just like Multiverse of Madness. America Chavez, believe in yourself to be able to use that ability, and you save the day. Do you know what I mean? It's just, it's not as climactic for me as I think the show intends for it to be. The one thing I did like in this moment is that they did a callback to the whole Ahsoka and Sabine need to, you know, work together and be together. So she saw that Ahsoka was almost on the way to the Chimera as well. Ezra says, now it's your turn. He was going to force pull her, but she decided to go back to Ahsoka. So that's one thing where I was like, yay, you know, this is this is something I am really enjoying in this moment, and she decided to stay with her master. Oh man, and talking about convenient moments, after the Night Mothers sense that Morgan Elsbeth is, you know, dust, we have Sabine and Ahsoka go to take the leap of faith jump off the giant-ass Night Sister structure thing, and of course, Huyang has repaired the ship right in time. I mean, what if it had a problem that required, like, 20 more minutes? What would have... Do you know what... I'm just saying... I just feel like they can do a better job rather than those moments where it's like, oh, of course, plot contrivance, and then another plot contrivance. I feel like the show hasn't been like this, and to be fair, finales sometimes, more often than other episodes in that other season, fall victim to problems like this, or you may not see it as a problem, but I'm just like, well, of course. Well, of course this happened. Now, what was really cool, though, is when they were in the ship and then they were, trying desperately to get to the Chimera, we had Thrawn commend Ahsoka on being a worthy opponent, and he regrets that they'd never met face to face, and maybe they never will now, and he references Anakin Skywalker. He's like, still, I know you because I know your master. I concluded your strategies would be similar, and this is when I was thinking, and I was thinking it the whole time, to be honest, where's my Baylan scenes? Wait, what? Where's Baylan's skull? I need Baylan. So this is where we get into the somewhat ending explainedy-esque stuff, because this is, I enjoyed the episode, but this is where some of the more fanboy moments of me are just like, okay, I need to see what happens next because I want to know really what is going on. So once they're back on the planet, Ahsoka spots this convoy owl in the distance, and this is Morai, of which many Star Wars fans know has been following Ahsoka for a very, very long time, ever since the daughter, the Mortis daughter, that is, saved Ahsoka's life through putting her life force into her. So Morai, often symbolizing the daughter herself, the light side of the force, is quite cool, especially when you pair it with what we have unfolding in the next few scenes. So up next we had Shin Hati igniting her lightsaber to signal the bandits. I don't really know what was going on here. You would have to think we are going to see her again, and she could come in to be quite important with maybe a role that she could fulfill in the future. Maybe she's going to go up against Baylan having felt rejected, because this is somewhat the opposite of what we've had symbolized between Ahsoka and Sabine. Them coming closer together, not abandoning, standing by one another, whereas Baylan's like, okay, I'm gonna go do this, and Shin's like, oh, goddamn, hey, bandits, can I join you for now? So I'm looking forward to see where her character goes. This is where we come to Baylan Skoll, finally. And first of all, I just want to say that Ray Stevenson has done such a fantastic job as this character, to the point of where, even though there is more to be desired in terms of I want to see more of this character, what's going to go on there, and we're about to get into that, he just gave such a captivating performance that so many people were kind of borderline obsessed with the, ambiguity behind this character, the gravitas of what Ray Stevenson gave to the role. And given the tragic passing of Ray Stevenson, you would have to think that they're going to do a recast given where things end off for this character. And this is something that I didn't even necessarily expect. I thought that maybe something would happen with Baylan by the finale of this series, but they clearly very much so intended for this character to continue, because here we see him standing on top of this kind of cliff edge where we have the Mortis Gods of the father and the son carved into the cliff side. And we also see to the left the daughter carved into the cliff, but her head is missing. Now, you could argue that this is to symbolize that a lot of people are theorizing that maybe there's going to be like a new embodiment of the Mortis Gods roles, in that the daughter being beheaded is because the role has already been designated to Ahsoka Tano. Now, I'm not sure how convinced I am of that being a literal thing, but if it's just thematically or symbolized after what happened with the daughter and how she gave the last of her powers as she was dying to bring Ahsoka back to life, and that's why we see Morai pop up, the Corva Owl, that is, for those of you who don't know, that yeah, like she's technically in the daughter's role in a way, especially with the new Ahsoka the White Gandalf light side mode that she's in. Now, some people are saying that is Sam Witwer's likeness to the right. I don't think it's that deep. Some of you may be like, Bobby, you're wrong. It is. I'm not saying it isn't. And I know that Sam Witwer voiced the son anyway. But like, this is the thing, right? Would Sam Witwer be the son? Would the son come back? Because there's been a big theory about the son returning in live action and what this is all going to, especially with how much Filoni is, gone knee deep into all of this world between worlds stuff, the Mortis Gods. Now we're literally seeing the Mortis Gods carved into the edge of a cliff, and Baylan searching for something that has been calling to him. And this has been his whole motivation this whole time. Him saving Morgan Elsbeth was literally a side hustle to really just get to Peridia, because he's basing it all off his quest, because he wants to find something that he's heard about since people were telling tales since he was a youngling of whatever this is. And we still don't know what it is. Now, what we do see in the distance is that there's like something glowing, and it's almost like a beacon. So obviously whatever Baylan is looking for, he's still hearing it call to him, and it's probably right there. Now, people are theorizing that the sun is going to return, but what happened with all of that? And this is going by the actual lore of Star Wars. Because the Mortis dagger didn't get used to kill the sun, people were saying when Anakin killed the sun that it didn't really kill him. But the reason why Anakin was able to kill the sun is because we had the father stab himself with the dagger of Mortis, thus severing the sun's powers, and thus then allowing Anakin to kill the sun the way he did. So technically, from the way we understand it, the sun is indeed dead. So is the father, and technically, so is the daughter, even if you want to read into how, you know, there could be a little trace of her within Ahsoka. So unless you believe that the father, through sacrificing himself, didn't weaken the son enough to actually be killed by Anakin, and that the son could still be alive, and that Baylan is gonna, you know, awaken the son, then what else could it be? If, let's just say, hypothetically, they are actually all dead. Some people are theorizing that Baylan could be awakening the mother. Now, the mother is also known as Abeloth, and is way more into the Star Wars legend side of things, because we've only really touched upon the father, the son, and the daughter in that of the Clone Wars. The thing about this is, would Baylan really be searching out, you know, Abeloth, the bringer of chaos? If he wants to bring a new necessary order to the galaxy, as he says, would that really be Abeloth? And maybe you could argue it is, because he's not aware of what he might be unleashing, and he thinks it could be a good thing. And again, we have to all base this on the fact that he's been hearing like folklore since he was a youngling, and now he's here and he's like, oh my god, this is all true, and it's still related. No matter what, whatever this is going to be that he unleashes or wants to unleash, it is related to the whole Mortis vibe of things. So unless it is an existing Mortis god who we thought was dead being brought back, it could be an expansion on the Mortis lore that we haven't seen done yet, and Filoni could be pulling from legends, and it could be deceptively the mother, and that's what the Great Mothers and Thrawn were scared of on Peridea, which is why Shin was talking with Baylan a couple of episodes back about why are they so quick to leave. Also, there's a lot of people talking about how, you know, Ahsoka's fulfilling the daughter's role of, you know, the Mortis Gods, Anakin being the father, and maybe Baylan the son, but Baylan isn't really like dark sidey. He's actually more fallen Jedi. So, you know, some people were then saying, what if Shin in the future fulfills the son's role if they're going to go down that path? I don't know if it's all going to be that literal, especially as Anakin is a Force ghost. Some people are wondering if you were to be a Mortis god, it wouldn't be in Force ghost mode, so it wouldn't be Anakin being the father. Perhaps you would have to be actually alive to fulfill a role. And this is if you're even going to have people fulfill these roles in the future. It could just be none of that, and Baylan is unlocking an unexplored part of the Mortis canon, like the mother in live action. But either way, with Ahsoka saying to Sabine, this is where we're supposed to be, they're meant to be here for whatever happens next, and I agree. With Baylan searching for whatever this could be, things are getting very cosmic-y and like world between worlds, larger than life stuff. So all while Thrawn is a threat, whatever's going on here needs to have an eye kept on it, that's for sure. Now this is when we have a shuttle arriving to the New Republic fleet, and Ezra walks off of it. I love how Chopper, you know, went to him first, and this was very wholesome. The look on Hera's face, I loved all of this, but I do have to admit, Ezra, like, how did you manage to get a shuttle off of the Chimera and fly away like that? I mean, you know, I'm pretty sure Thrawn would have noticed. How did he even locate where the New Republic fleet was? There's a bunch of questions I can keep asking here, but hey ho, Ezra's home, and that's all that matters. And then the final scene of the episode was, of course, when we had Sabine noticing something in the starlight, saying she felt like she saw something, but nothing. It was just probably shadows in the starlight, right? But this is when Ahsoka looks, and it's Anakin's Force ghost. And this moment, as I briefly went over earlier, I love how much Filoni gives respect to Hayden Christensen, Anakin. Obviously, this pertains to the Ahsoka show because she's the main character. Anakin was her master. The journey they've already gone on this season, how she overcame and processed the trauma of her past, and now Anakin's still watching over her. And this is literally post-Return of the Jedi, Anakin Force Ghost watching over his apprentice. That's got all kinds of beauty to it. I was wondering for a second, did she actually see him? Because when we saw her looking, we don't really see anything in the distance as you're seeing on screen right now. So I thought maybe she sensed him, and then when she started walking away, he appeared. But maybe when we get this zoom in on the face close up, she did see him, and that's when, you know, as the camera panned back, the audience then saw him. But I have to admit, nitpicky brain, if she did actually see him in that moment, wouldn't she kind of run over to him and want to have a conversation like, holy shit, Master, you're here. Hey, what's up? But she walked away. So I don't know, that's me overthinking that moment, but I still found it a really, really nice scene. So overall, guys, I really did enjoy the Ahsoka finale. I felt like it was quite messy at points if you want to look at the writing, but I still really enjoyed the entertainment it provided. I really, really enjoyed the setup it provided for the future at the very end. As far as Star Wars content goes, this is kind of what I want to see, the characters I want to see, the action I want to see explored. I'm still very adamant that I think Andor, even if you're watching right now, you're not interested in it in terms of like, it's just not my thing. It is written leagues and leagues and leagues better than Ahsoka. It's a lot more of a polished product in so many different ways. That is something in Star Wars where I definitely respect it a lot more for the quality, and I really love Andor. But again, this is the side of Star Wars where it's got the characters people want to see explored in current day projects. It's got a lot of fun action. It's still got really fun themes and personal stories that people want to see fleshed out, and I do agree with that. It's just got a bit more hiccups here and there that I'm picking up on compared to what, you know, for example, you might see in an Andor episode. It's just, I think the mainstream audience is way more invested in Force powers and lightsabers. Grand Admiral Thrawn, Hayden Christensen, Anakin Skywalker. I don't blame them. It will always bring me back. So this is what I mean. I have my like critiques on like the critical thinking side of this, but I'm still like, oh damn, I'm gonna keep watching and enjoying. Anyway, though, everyone, let me know your thoughts down in that comment section. What did you think of the finale? What do you think and reflect upon Ahsoka as a series as a whole? Let me know your theories going into the future. What do you think Baylan is truly searching for? If you got to this part in the video, would really appreciate it if you hit that like button. Consider subscribing for more Star Wars content like this in the future. But thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day, and may the Force be with you always.